love is redefined. Love always involves a sacrifice, and a sacrifice always involves giving up something of value that you cherish to obtain something else. They don't say it like that, but in the TT, blind obedience is the essence of the spirituality. Whole groups of words, expressions and phrases can be so loaded with meaning, they can come to actually replace your thinking and can come to form the language of non-thought. Lifton was first to observe and explain what he called thought-terminating clichés. In short, they are often platitudes, but the aim behind the use of those platitudes is to sustain a dual vision of everything, but also to quench any opposition to it. So for example, in the TT, there are a lot of expressions about mind. Wrong mind, he has his own mind, that is not the mind of the body. Oppositional thinkers are destroyers. Those who have the mind of Messiah are builders. To renew your mind means to give up your own opinions and adopt the group doctrine opinion. Another thought-terminating cliché is, for example, better to be wrong together than right and alone. The rationale behind it was if you are right but alone, God won't be able to bless your endeavors because it is the unity that God is after. And so if you submit and go along, God will be able to bless you and you all and show you where you all went wrong. This connects to another thought-terminating cliché: submit to authority even if they are wrong. Again, it is the submission to authority that God is after, and He can only bless someone if they are submitted. Doesn't matter if the leader is totally leading you in the wrong direction, or even causing harm. God will make it all good and will speak to the leader. Another thought-terminating cliché: the sin of the leaders brings out the rebellion of the sheep, meaning, you should think yourself blessed when you are having a hard time by the leaders. It is all for your spiritual progress, so you can see your own rebellion and repent. If your mind is full of thought-terminating clichés, you feel as if your thinking can be almost effortless and fast, because really the thinking has been done and dusted a long time ago. You are just articulating the whole thing quite easily, like passing a stream of water, jumping from stone to stone, but it could get complicated if the person conversing with you doesn't have your mindset. It's like you are asking them to only understand reality through your perception, and like they are asking you to jump in the water and swim with them instead of walking on the stones that are easy for you. But it's much more comfortable. Seems to you it is the only way to stay on those stones, and you feel higher too. Why bother getting in the cold water when you can pass the stream easier walking on the stones? I remember a young girl I had met at the Woodford Fall Festival while waitressing, and then saw her again a year later at the Cafe in Katoomba, where I was waitressing again. She was young and vibrant and asked me ingenuously how I was growing and blossoming in my life. I remember feeling quite stuck or rusty for a while. All I could say was, well, I'm learning to do the will of God and receive my portion. I could barely fake a smile. At that point I was feeling so alienated in every way, including from myself, and so miserable really, but I hung on to the knowledge that I was being obedient to God and loving people around me the best I could. So logically, yes, I was doing well. Doing well is another thought-terminating cliché. You do well if you are laying down your life, another thought-terminating cliché, and comply with all the rules without complaining. Receive your portion is another thought-terminating cliché. If you complain or try to offset some responsibility, you could be said to not receive your portion. You will be asked to start judging yourself. And so talking to this young girl, listening to her, I thought, this is totally foreign to my life, blossoming and growing, and I could only interpret it in my own terms. It has been said that when enough thought-terminating clichés are used, they monopolize your whole thinking process. They form part of what has been called the language of non-thought, and you find yourself unable to think freely. You have become the embodiment of the doctrine, and you can pat yourself on the back for that. Wow, I really belong to God now. I only have His words in my mind and on my lips. Praise the Lord. Really? Your mind is locked in a loop. It might feel comfortable at times to always or almost have an answer for everything, but where is that taking you? Further and further away from yourself and from others, even your loved ones? My internal dialogue was functioning only within this internal map of reality I had received as my own, and whatever came into me through my senses and feelings was filtered by this reality. And so I became very insensitive to anything that didn't fit it, like someone talking in a totally different language or whispering so quietly you don't hear it. And when people are insensitive, they are bound to cause grief and harm to others around. And that is what happened. I was in touch with myself, my husband, my children, and couldn't feel them, read them, whatever you want to call it. Whereas I used to be very sensitive to them, know how they're doing in their own individual ways, I had lost my connection with them. In the 12 tribes, you live in the hope of bringing true justice and restoration to the earth, to people and nature. But to get there, evil has to be done away with through the power that Yeshua made available to his disciples. You are taught that action starts with intent, and intent begins with thought. You are taught and get convinced that the devil is bombarding the inhabitants of the earth with thoughts that lead one to bad temptations. So you are supposed to judge all the thoughts which arise in you and shield yourself against unwanted ones. The whole world is under the dominion of Satan. There is a snake through everything. So you cannot in essence trust the world. So for example, members are not allowed to listen to most types of music. Only very high-ranking members are allowed to read material outside of what the TT publish themselves and certain versions of the Bible. Yonek apparently is an avid reader and travels with a suitcase full of worldly books, and he alone has the spiritual discernment to extract the good out of evil. Or possibly other top leaders have that as well. And they alone can read all the books that they forbid others from reading. This vision of purity and this understanding leads a member to want to master any tendencies in him that can give evil an occasion and curtail or eliminate any outside influences that he sees as evil. This gives rise to an ongoing witch hunt. No stone is left unturned, no motive unexamined, no situation unexplained. Everything and everyone has to give account before God. It is like a daily judgment day, with your life being like an open book before God and others. You get informed, but then taught with excessive repetitions at the meetings and teachings given. One of the things you learn is to think the best of your brothers, remain positive, support authority, have and maintain a good attitude, don't listen to the evil one, be thankful, stress is sin, don't complain. I remember when I first arrived, I was told and heard others being told, "What are you sad about? That your sins are forgiven or that you have the Holy Spirit?" Whenever they were a bit depressed or something. All psychological, mental and even physical ailments surely have their root in sin. You are depressed because of unconfessed sin or is resisting our Father's will, usually disagreeing with whoever has authority over your life. You have the Holy Spirit, who portrays the fruit of the Spirit, which is everything good: faithfulness, joy, forbearance, gentleness, kindness, self-control, peace, love. So you get trained to think that all your problems are basically going to be resolved by getting the devil out of your life and judging yourself. As things are not that simple, they do not get resolved, and all you are left with is the fact that ultimately it is your entire fault, which puts an enormous weight on your shoulders. We were told that those that make it into the holy city are those who have learned to own every circumstance in their life as coming from God. For he tests everyone, but particularly those whom he has chosen. So to not receive what happens to you as from God is being blind to his kindness to you, and if one of the leaders points out clearly to you, and you don't accept that or understand it, that is seen as the beginning of rebellion. "Whomever I love, I will chastise," you hear all the time. You are supposed to live without fear, judge all evil, have a perfect attitude, and solely make decisions based on love and what is right. Teachings and talks on purifying yourself run through your everyday life, and you always hear people talk about how they fall short of loving perfectly, and how they want to change. Leaders are examples of this, constantly telling everyone how they want to increase in their obedience and love. Yeshua was unselfish because he made right decisions to love and not live for himself. He was a man with the same propensity to fall, so we have a chance to be like him, because of the Holy Spirit that is in us. He was off with a good start, being from undefiled seed, like Adam, and did not share in the curse that Adam brought, which we do. And he was raised by righteous parents who recognized the Holy Spirit that was upon him. And so our children have the Holy Spirit upon them too, and we ought to raise them in a way they can receive the gift of the Holy Spirit and house the Holy Spirit. There will be at the end of the age 144,000 male child who will be as pure as the Son of God, and our responsibility as parents was to raise our children in such a pure way as to produce 3 or 4 successive generations who will eventually be these pure, undefiled male virgins who have never spoken a lie, are totally controlled by love and follow the Son of God, who will preach to the whole world the news of salvation and get killed in the process, which will be the grounds for God to judge the world. So there is no hope for anyone apart from this judgment. No hope, not even for the good people who are yet to receive their reward from God after the world is judged and evil is done away once and for all. You live in a state of feeling like a failure, and in our case we were made to feel from the beginning as bad parents who have to shape up. Our son was labeled worldly from 5 years old. It only got worse and worse. We were ostracized and cut off in the effort to try to stop our worldly and bad ways to be spread to others. The approach is very clinical. At the slightest suspicion there is something wrong with you, they separate you. And that is what happened to us. For years our family of 5 was split in 2, then in 3, and we were living in different locations, separated. I was made to totally separate from my mother, siblings, and wasn't allowed to see my husband's family. In some communities, the leaders take the children from the parents and give them to who they think is more suitable, more pure according to the doctrines. As a mother, you spend your waking hours praying to not be selfish, when you are doing the extra mile on a regular basis and working for no personal gain. You also pray to have your evil ways revealed to you and to be able to help your children with theirs. In such an environment, you interpret situations wrongly because of your zeal to be purified, and even imagine things that are not. Because of your stress, you have difficulties simply enjoying life and your children. You are also made to feel personally accountable for the state of your tribe. The tribal iniquities are your concern, also representing well your tribe, not giving the wrong image. Also, all the problems of the community have to do with you. Maybe God is not answering the prayers because you are at fault. He's not allowing people to be saved because of the lack of purity and love in your own life, or generally as a tribe. There are even teachings about the sacrifice, morning and evening, which is to be done in sincerity and purity of heart, with no sin, done as a collective. Everyone at the end of each meeting lifts hands and prays and offers petitions, personal, for family, leaders, children, friends, for the whole community and for the righteous. And this is the fulfillment of the sacrifice of a lamb the priest in ancient Israel performed on behalf of the nation, morning and evening. So the lives of the people are like that lamb being offered to God, and if he finds a defect in it, he does not accept it, nor can he righteously answer anyone's prayers that day. It is totally black and white perspective at every level. You start judging everyone according to the doctrine which you have internalized. After a few months in there, I was already judging my mother as having almost, if not totally, forsaken listening to her conscience. That is a very serious state of affairs. It means that you are destined to the lake of fire to suffer eternal torment. I had come to this sad conclusion based on her response to my letter of apology for my rebellion in my teenage years. Her response was that of a loving mother. She basically was forgiving and understanding of all the trouble that I had caused her. So this led me to reject a lot of my own thoughts and viewpoints. Instead of pondering and coming to my own conclusions, I was adopting more and more this black and white thinking. And your mind is